frame up.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Home Ice Advantage. I'm Ted Sobel. He's Jonathan Davis. His face is all over the bottom picture there. We are getting close to the playoffs, John. The Kings wrapping up Home Ice Advantage last night. I don't know, they stole the title of this show doing it, but what can I tell you? Nice win over an extremely shorthanded Edmonton Oilers team. But hey, a win's a win, just like they did against Colorado last week.
Yeah, a win's a win, and look, the Kings got what they came into Edmonton to do, and the Oilers, they rested a good part of their team. No McDavid, no Draisaitl, no Hyman, no Wallman. It was what we got out of the Oilers. It seemed like more of a message sending game to them, and really the biggest message that comes out of that game, Ted, as we're recording here at about 12:30 Pacific time on Tuesday, is going to come from the NHL Department of Player Safety, as Darnell Nurse will have a hearing for his just brutal cross-check to the back of the head of Quinton Byfield.
Yeah,
it was just such a senseless play, and kind of ironic to me that Nurse, who was so angry with the elbow that he took from Ryan Reeves earlier in the year, here he is now the guy that's delivering the dirty hit. So, it's something that I would not be surprised to see, because he's got a hearing with the Department of Player Safety, that Darnell Nurse will miss at least one, if not more, playoff games.
Yeah, and reputation precedes itself.
Well, reputation, sure, but that really doesn't matter, because when the Department of Player Safety factors in their suspension, really it's your past history. And I'm trying to think if he's had anything. I think it's the last 18 months, that becomes a repeat offender. Off the top of my head, I don't know if that's the case. But regardless, for Edmonton, hey, look, they treated this game as just one, as Philip Deneau said after the game, they put out their B team and all they wanted to do was fight.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we saw from the Oilers. It was more of a game to kind of send a message physically. And let's get ready for round one in Los Angeles. That will start, in about 5 or 6 days.
Yes, but what kind of a message is that, when we all know that the playoffs is a different season totally? The game is different. The physicality is different. There's no time and space, whether you like it or not. Hey, what kind of a message do you need to send by playing, if not dirty, certainly extra chippy when you're shorthanded like that?
Well, I think what Edmonton, look, the way I interpret it was that Edmonton was, all they're trying to do is to say, hey, you better look over your shoulder because Corey Perry's coming, or you better look over your shoulder because, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, who that next guy would be.
Nurse with a stick.
Well, Nurse with a stick, or it's going to be Jones. Oh my God, why is it the former Anaheim Duck that's now in Edmonton? Or it could be Trent Frederick if he's healthy. It's just that's really what they're trying to do. It's, hey, you better look over your shoulder because this guy's coming at you, and that's the only thing I can take away from it.
Okay. And this guy's going to be pissed off at us if I don't play as open.
This is Jim Fox from the LA Kings, and you're watching Home Ice Advantage, all hockey talk with Ted Sobel and Jonathan Davis.
Thank you, Jim. And he was interesting last, a little extra. His juices were flowing last night, Jimmy Fox, on the telecast, watching what was going on. That brings back, I'm sure, a lot of memories for him between these two teams over the decades. They have an incredible history when you think of Edmonton way up there and LA way down here, and yet their playoff history is amazing.
Yeah, and Jim Fox last night once again showed why he is one of the best analysts in the game. His ability to break down situations and do it in such a way that, he's very concise. His knowledge is fantastic, and he had his opportunities. He usually does the playoffs. Ted, you would know best because you've worked with him during the Stanley Cup playoffs from your radio days. This is a guy that gets to do the games nationally on radio, and there's a good reason why he's picked year in and year out. He's very good at just assessing a play and and there's no homerism when Jim's doing a Kings game. He lays out exactly why or why not, a penalty was called. And, it was baffling at times, some of the calls that were made, but we had, it felt like 20 penalties last night. And
Yeah.
Look, the referees too were sending a message. They know they know what's coming up next. So they did a really good job of keeping this game under control, calling penalties that you will not likely see come playoff time. But I thought Jim last night showed why he's one of the best broadcasters in the business.
Okay, one of my favorite stats of the season, Kings are now 40-0-4 when scoring 3 or more goals this year. I mean, it is ridiculous. I still haven't heard back from the Kings yet. Their management said they're going to find out if that is an all-time record, yet to be determined, but it's unheard of in my mind.
It is remarkable, and it goes to the style of play that they impart on the opposition. Hey, look, if they can dictate their game, then it's really hard. Look, last night, Ted, was another game where they didn't give up a goal the entire game. They didn't give up a first period goal. They're always playing more times than not playing from ahead. I think it's now 2 or 3 times in the last 18 games that they've given up a first period goal. So, it's been very impressive. Now look, we've got we have the matchup that many would like to see. Some don't, because they're tired of Edmonton and LA. But by the same token, I mean, would you not agree this LA team right now is in the best position it's been ever in the last couple of years to beat these Edmonton Oilers?
No doubt about it. I think, it's funny too, because how many times did we talk about in the last few seasons, Rob Blake is not getting this done. He's made a mistake here. He has to deserve the credit for putting this combination of guys. They are bigger. They are stronger. I think they're faster. They're more skilled, and they have a playoff roster right now, the way they're playing.
Yeah, I didn't believe that to be the case at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And I've been proven to be wrong, and, fully admit it. I think that, and for LA, look, they still don't have Tanner Jeannot back. That's a guy that they would, that's a guy that in this series, especially against Edmonton, you'd like to have that type of player available to you. Jeff Malott is the guy that's admirably filled in Jeannot's spot. Again, we've talked about it before, but the Kuzmenko trade, look, it's worked out beyond expectations for them. I mean,
no doubt.
They were not counting on this at all. And let me just remind people, and this is not a knock on the Flyers, but the Flyers are paying half of his salary not to play for them.
That's very nice of them.
It is. Now, and all it cost was the LA Kings a 3rd-round draft pick. And that's great. Like, but this is, so credit. I mean, and what it's done for the power play since Kuzmenko has joined the team.
And they absolutely had to have that too.
Yeah. I mean, he has been, it's been a great trade. And look, Joel Edmondson, a guy that's missed the last couple of games. I mean, a phenomenal year. He stayed healthy. I mean, I don't know. I do wonder that if LA was in a different situation, would Edmondson be missing these last few games? Not, we don't know that. But regardless, this is a guy that usually plays around 60. He's played over 70, close to 80. This year he's played more minutes this year than Anze Kopitar on average. Like they didn't expect that, but they got it. And so, the Darcy Kemper trade worked out far better. I mean, I've been saying that, look, Cam Talbot was not the problem last year, at least during the regular season. But what Kemper's done this year, I mean, you can't knock it. So, and Warren Fogle, I mean, he talked about it from the day that he got here. So he talked about how he felt that he was not given the proper chance to succeed in Edmonton, and he's taken full advantage of it here in Los Angeles.
How much of that, and we don't want to get too into it, we can talk more about that next week, but the fact that when you're in Edmonton, I mean, you got 2 big guys, right? And maybe the greatest 1-2 punch since the 80s.
Yeah.
And so how is anybody else going to get that opportunity, no matter how good they are, because it's going to be a little bit of a different equation there.
Well, the only thing my pushback to that, Ted, would be the fact that Fogel plays on the wing. He doesn't play center.
No, I get it.
So he's not taking, he's not losing out on ice time because of Connor and Leon.
Right.
So, I mean, sure, I guess if they were, the times that they put Connor and Leon on the same line, maybe that's going to affect it. But
okay, at
the end of the day, look, Zach Hyman hasn't struggled, because of Connor and Leon. But there's no question that Fogel, who's more of a complimentary piece, has been a great compliment to the LA roster this year.
Right. I'm just wondering, complimentary pieces, though, they all have a different attitude and how they deal with stuff. And maybe he was more sensitive on sort of being just thrown away as an extra guy there. It's like, wait a minute, I'm better than that. And now he's showing it.
And both things can be true.
Right.
There's no question. Look, players can definitely flourish in, they struggle with one team. They end up being a better fit in another. I mean, look at the guy that LA traded to Washington to get Kemper. I mean, it's 20 goals for Pierre-Luc Dubois this year.
But he still should be better than a 20 goal scorer.
I understand. Right.
But he's definitely playing better and more passion.
He's playing better. And we'll see what happens come playoff. Maybe Dubois is not the best example. I mean, there are a lot of players that have, when they get an opportunity, look, here's another thing. A lot of times, that first place that you're in may not be the place you're going to succeed. And I think, there's to me, one of the best examples, and let's go to a different sport. How about Bill Belichick? I mean, this guy was in Cleveland. We forget. Many of us won't remember that he was a coach in Cleveland. Did not succeed in Cleveland. Goes to New England, and well, the rest is history. He's the GOAT.
Yeah, you also have to have the quarterback and the team. I don't care.
Okay. But what I'm right. Okay, but
a great example is a better example because Pete Carroll was below 500 with the Jets and with England, and then all of a sudden he's a Hall of Famer with USC, goes and wins a Super Bowl, and in Seattle. So you got to have the players. I don't care how good of a coach you are.
Yeah, no, but whatever it is,
yeah.
I guess the point that I'm making is, yes, you've got to have the players. Look, it's not that Fogel's doing it by himself. He's got. I'm just trying to draw the comparison that just because you don't succeed for whatever reason with one team doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed somewhere else in a different situation. And both all three examples have taken advantage of their second opportunities.
Yeah, and how about Fogel with an opportunity to play against his old team? And he's already basically said, I don't like that team. I mean, and I think he means it.
Well, yeah, because I think he felt he was underappreciated. Yeah.
So what an opportunity here, in the first round.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And what I think they were talking about it on the broadcast when was it Fogel? That when Edmonton was in here last, I think that Fogel had gone out with a couple of the Oiler players. I think it was him and Evan Bouchard are still really close.
Yeah. So
you won't see them dropping the gloves, I don't think, unless one of them didn't pick up the tab at dinner.
Exactly. Well, that's the playoffs. You could be dropping the gloves at any time. We're going to hear from Jim Hiller a couple of times in this show. First, after the win over the Ducks, which was a blowout, but there was stuff to talk about in this.
You guys are 38-0-2, scoring 3 or more goals.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. What is?
You scooped them, huh?
I didn't scoop anything. But what does that mean to you? I mean, what does it say about you?
Well, what does it mean to me? We need to score 3 goals. Yeah. Well, it means that we haven't scored enough goals often enough. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that we've lost, clearly. Yeah. No, I mean, it also means we play pretty good defense because if we score 3, it's usually enough for us. So it's a really interesting statistic. I mean, that's unheard of for me to hear something like that, that one-sided like that. So, yeah, 2 things. Hey, we play good defense. Be nice if we could score more some nights.
How pleased are you? You scored on 3 slap shots.
Yeah. Yeah, after all those wrist shots. Oh, you picked up on that from our defensemen, all those wrist shots from the point. Yeah, I mean, no, that's a difference. And sometimes somebody's in your lane and it's difficult to slap it. I get it. But it's a lot easier to step in front of one when it's a wrist shot than some of those slap shots that we saw tonight.
Is Kumenko's greatest strength his play recognition? Like, he usually makes the right.
Yeah.
It doesn't always wind up as a goal, but usually, like when there's a choice to be made, I think he makes the right choice a lot of the time.
Yeah, he's. Yeah, I would agree with that. One thing he can do is he is able individually to open up lanes on the ice. You know, sometimes you have the puck and people are all over the place. You try to make the right play. He's got the ability to shift, move quickly, and adjust his body. So maybe there wasn't something there, but he knows where it is, and then he's able to make the play. So I think that's part of his individual skill set, not just his decision making. So it's nice to have the combination of the two. And I think that's probably where he excels. I would agree.
How do you describe the first half of the game when scoring 3 goals in the first, I think it was 7 shots on goal?
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of rubber on him. I mean, I thought the looks were pretty good. So, and I think, Kempe had the one where he turned the corner, he made a good save on. So we didn't have a lot of volume early, but I still thought the quality was there on our chances. Kopi had the one going through the middle. I think that Gavrikov gave him, and Dusselman a nice glove save. So there were quality chances. There just wasn't a lot of shots.
Jim Hiller of the Kings. We'll hear from him again in a moment. Now, that was against the Ducks. Kevin Fiala had a couple of goals in that game. He now has 14 power play goals this season, and he has just turned things around. What a time to get going. We'll hear from him.
It's been a while since we've seen the 5-forward power play. Obviously seemed to have some success tonight. What were your thoughts on going back to that and how it felt tonight?
Yeah, it was nice. Obviously, success, like you said, so that's the most important thing. That's all that matters. So, just a good puck movement overall, dangerous. And so, yeah, it was good.
What would it mean for you guys to get the PP role and going into the postseason?
Yeah, it's always very important, special teams, PP and PK. And today both showed up big time. And, we just have to keep it going like that,
Not a lot of shots early, but you guys had 3 goals in the first 7 shots. That's going to change a game around in a hurry, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. So sometimes they don't go in. Like last game, for example, we had so many chances, so many shots, hit bars and whatever, and we only scored 1. So and today it turned, So we just have to. That's another reason we just have to stay on it, continue what we're doing. Believe in the system, believe in us, believe in what we're doing, and just keep on going, keep it going, and eventually it's hopefully going in. Just take next game.
Kev, earlier in the season when there were more practices, Jim would talk about he wanted to teach something in a practice and then see it in the very next game.
Yeah.
Hasn't been a lot of practice, but there was practice this week.
Yeah.
What was the message? What did he want to see specifically in tonight's game?
Overall, just getting better at everything, just get back at the ozone structure kind of we practiced on yesterday, especially, and I think we did a great job today. And obviously, you always want to try to get better at something if you have time to practice,
Yeah, well, he's getting better. That's for damn sure. It's always interesting during a season to see what guys can learn because practice time is extremely limited. There's not a lot of teaching opportunities.
No, and the thing here's something with Fiala, and the timing is perfect, Ted, because the Kings sent out a release today saying that Fiala is their team nominee for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy, which is given to the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities both on and off the ice and has made noteworthy humanitarian contributions to his community. That is not an award that I would ever have felt that Kevin Fiala would have been nominated for in years past. And so that is, that's a credit to a guy that has evolved this year. Because, look, we've heard Hiller in the past and Todd McClellan, kind of both pull their hair out at times with Fiala's play. But this tells me, and congrats to Kevin Fiala, because, this is, for him to be nominated and to use the words leadership and Fiala, I think that just says a lot about how he has changed as a person.
And I think it's a great example. People can evolve and mature, whatever business or life situation you're in. And that's exactly what's happening to him. I think he's embracing the fact that he knows what his talents are. And I think the coaching staff and management is getting into his head and his heart, like, hey, buddy, this is what you can do. And now you are doing it because you want to do it.
Well, and the other player that comes to mind in that regard is Adrian Kempe. It took Adrian Kempe a while to understand exactly what you just described about Kevin Fiala. So, this is where teams know their players better than anybody else. And so, if you're going to give up on somebody, then that tells me something that you felt that there's nothing more that you can do. I think in both players' cases, there has been untapped potential, whether it be on the ice or between the ears. And sometimes it's a bit of both, and sometimes it's a way on. Look, it's all about parenting, right? I mean, I've said it before. You're a coach for 20 kids, and every player and kid is going to be different. And you can't coach them the same way. So, hey, credit to this organization for getting this untapped potential ability out of both these players.
Speaking of coaching kids, that's exactly what's been going on the last few seasons in Anaheim, and we got a couple of sound bites here from head coach Greg Cronin, and I got a one-on-one with Cutter Gauthier. Thanks to Ducks management, they're very nice to give me a one-on-one with a player after a 6-1 loss. That doesn't happen very often, right?
No, but Ted, I mean, look, you're the man. Like, no one's turning you down.
Right. Yeah, and then they threw me out of the room.
Well,
you got to leave now. A little bit. And let's hear from Greg Cronin on his thoughts on the future and where his team is at this point.
When Pat talked about the need for you guys to play sort of playoff quality games this time of year, and you're playing Calgary twice and Edmonton and the Kings, these are kind of important games for you guys maybe to get their feet wet a little bit, and you haven't played these kind of games in the last few years.
No, and I told him that, it was a good question. I said that in between the second and third period, even though it was 4-1, I said, guys, these are the games we've got to get comfortable playing in. You can measure yourself, you compete level, your decisions with the puck and all those things that I think are part of a playoff environment. Clearly when you win one-on-one battles on the walls and you get to the front of the other team's net, you're putting yourself in a good position to be in the offensive side of the puck, and I thought the Kings did a really good job of that the last 25 minutes.
I think you guys got like 12 more wins and 20 more points than you had last year. Do you feel like you turned a corner a little bit, given the way the team has struggled the last few seasons?
Yeah, and I say this all the time. There's two seasons in the NHL. There's a pre-trade deadline season. There's a post-trade deadline season, right? So some of the teams are arming themselves for a playoff run. The other teams are trying to create that identity that they might have built before that. And we're the latter. We're trying to build on an identity that I thought we're in a playoff race all the way through the trade deadline. And I think at one point we were 5 points back, and that's where we wanted to be if we're talking in the summertime. And win, lose, or draw, it's critical that these young kids, we've got, tonight we had 11 kids that are, born in 2020 or 2000 and younger, and they're in these games. And it's a different game. It's a different pace, it's a different intensity to it, it's a different battle level to it. So it's critical that they go through these type of games. It's going to help in the long run.
Cutter gets another goal tonight. That's 5 in the last 3 games. We've talked about him a lot, but it feels like he's really blossoming into that true complement next to Leo.
Yeah, again, you saw his biggest gift is his shot, and that release he scored on that goal was terrific. And again, he's a guy that he's in and out of the penalty killing, and he's sitting there for a while. So I think that line got caught up in a little bit of the special teams thing, but I thought Cutter skated well again.
There you go. That's head coach Greg Cronin of the Ducks. Very nice of him to talk about Cutter Gauthier, a first full season in Anaheim. And again, thank you, Alex Gilchrist, the PR guru of the Ducks, for giving me Cutter one-on-one right after the game.
Really nice to have Cutter Gauthier join us here after a 6-1 loss to the Kings. First, congrats on the 20th goal of your season.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
I worked for you guys when first year of the team 31
Oh, yeah?
years ago.
93?
Long time ago.
Small talk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
You
unreal.
wouldn't remember that.
No, I wasn't born.
Exactly. Talk about the progress of the team this season and where you are. You're going to be more than 20 points from last year. I know you weren't here, but you got to be seeing some positives in there.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of just mentioned it there with the team atmosphere in the locker room. Guys had confidence the last couple months, and we had playoff hope. We were right in it until the end, and just missed a couple opportunities to sneak us in. But that's what you want. You don't want to play pointless games the last 2-3 months in the season, and I heard that was the case these last couple seasons. So it was great to see a big progress as a group. And as a team, and we're only striving to be better and better every year.
What about the addition of Gudis and Killorn? What have they brought to the younger guys here?
Experience. Alex Killorn, obviously 2-cup winner, knows how to get the job done in tight situations. And Gudis played in the Stanley Cup final, and he's our rock. He's our captain of our team here. And they both just have a lot of experience, played in the league for a very long time.
Yep.
And, with young guys coming up, that's the only thing they don't have is time and experience in the league. So questions, they always have answers, and it's been great bouncing ideas off of those two.
Well, looking at a stat, 24-6-2 you guys are when you score 3 or more goals this season. That says a lot about you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of offensive skill in this locker room, and the more times we can use it in games, I feel like it's obviously, the better. The team who wins scores more goals. So I saw that stat too, and it's pretty funny. Got to score 3 goals and figure out a way, scratch claw to get 3, and hopefully we have hopefully get a chance to get it done. So
last thing, what's the biggest thing that you see going into next season, and what you guys can improve on, and where you are at this stage?
I think the biggest thing for us is being consistent. We've had a handful of a couple winning game streaks where we just keep things going, keep things rolling, and then we kind of deteriorate a little bit and get a little comfortable. So I think the more times that we can, play a solid, simple game, even when we're not feeling the best, is going to be great for our process and great for us, building on top of this past year and hopefully having a winning record and a playoff chance next year.
Appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You take care. Stay healthy.
How is that? Cutter
great. He's really good.
Wasn't he outstanding? And that's after a 6-1 loss. Never forget that. That's incredible.
Yes. No question about it.
Yes, it was really nice to talk to him and meet him for the first time. Outgoing personality, and it's the kind of guy that, hey, if he scores 20 goals in his first full season, I think he's got a long career in Anaheim.
Well, you look at what's around him. You've got Gauthier, you've got McTavish, you've got Terry. We've seen the growth in Trevor Zegras' game. I mean, I think in many ways, Ted, there are some similarities in the growth and maturity of Zegras in Anaheim and that guy we were talking about earlier in Kevin Fiala. Just so, and then you look at what Anaheim has on the blue line with Lacombe and Zellweger. It's, they're going in the right direction. The future is right. And then you've got a goalie in Dostal that, that can win you, can win you a game any night. They just need, and we'll see what happens with John Gibson, but they got a good one. And think about what they had, they gave up, they traded Jamie Drysdale. This was 5th overall pick, Jamie Drysdale, for 5th overall pick, Cutter Gauthier. And I think it's going to be a deal that works out for both teams.
That's always a good thing. But we talked about it a little bit last week when you were at the game, the kind of thing where you like what the front office is doing there and building, and just the fact that they've done it in a fairly short amount of time under the new administration. GM.
Yeah, well, I didn't even mention Leo Carlson.
Leo.
I forget Leo Carlson, Uncle Leo, for those Seinfeld fans out there. But yeah, I do. And then, you asked him about Gudis and Killorn, and, look, they overpaid when it comes to the actual dollars for both Gudis and Killorn. There's no question, but they weren't brought in here for, what they do on the ice as much as what they can do and what Cutter talked about, what they do off the ice.
Yep.
Being those teachers, those coaches inside that room This team needed that. And,
No doubt.
look, the other thing that Gudis does, and then, you brought up when we were in the press box, the addition of Jacob Trouba as well, it makes everybody bigger out there. When you've got guys like Gudis and Killorn and Trouba, people are going to be taking liberties with those young kids. Mason McTavish is one that can handle himself on his own. I think he can, he's pretty feisty, but Pat Verbeek has done a really good job. And it's been some painful years in Anaheim, but I think, we're seeing a team that is absolutely going in the right direction.
Yeah,
and I think I still think, we'll see what LA does, what they're able to do, but it used to be an absolute horror to come through. I guess you could call it the California Triangle. Before it was the gauntlet, San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. Definitely, I think we're going to start to see that sooner than later.
Yeah, that would be nice. And again, I always joke about the rivalry or the supposed rivalry of the Kings and the Ducks. It's rare that both teams are really good at the same time over the years. It's always been that way. So now maybe it's going to be that way again. Yeah,
I mean, we'll have to see, what the Kings are able to do, because I still think, they're a little, they're getting a little long in the tooth, and this is a big year because look, Kopitar's in his last year. Doughty's is getting closer to 40 than he is 30 or 35. So we'll see where things go, and you've got a guy like Byfield around you. But yeah, look, the last time that I think both these teams were good was when LA knocked Anaheim out of the playoffs en route to the Stanley Cup. And
that was a great series too.
It's one of my greatest memories, and not that I didn't have a hat in the race in that one, but being in Anaheim for that clinching game and the Kings fans chanting, "This is our house," that has never left my mind.
If I remember correctly, wasn't that another Justin Williams big game that he had there in the clinching game?
It may have been. I just, for me, and I know in talking to Kings executives, it's something that they still talk about going into the building and having the visiting building and hearing "This is our house" in reference to the Kings taking over the building.
Yeah. Well, I go way back with the Ducks to their inaugural game in '93, and always wishing them the best down there, even though I don't go to the building too much these days anymore. Let's hear from Kings coach Jim Hiller again after the win over Colorado, and they were shorthanded that game. No McKinnon, no Makar, no problem for the Kings.
Not the way you wanted to win that game?
Oh, I'll take every win. I will take every win. They were missing a few guys, or 4 or 5 maybe even. Pretty good team without those guys. Yeah, just goes to show you the depth that they have. That's going to be a heck of a series with Dallas, and I'll take that win all day long.
A little loosey-goosey in your own zone today?
I guess at times we felt that way. Probably not as tight as we typically are, especially in D zone, but they're going to make some plays, and they're going to test you no matter what. And it wasn't all game, but there were some moments where a few things uncharacteristic. But like I said, we didn't want to overreact during the game. We knew that it's a good opponent, and we found a way to get it done.
Frank Clark plays this one of his career games, and he started off the season strong, filling in for Doughty. Then he had to take a seat back a little bit. Now he's coming back on the top line. What did you see from his game kind of throughout the year? He seemed to have a strong one tonight.
He did, yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about him quite a bit. I mean, he had, you come in and it's early and the game was a little bit different, and we got to see some of his offensive skills for sure, which got us all really excited. We know that'll be coming in the future. And then the game tightens up and the grind of the season comes in, and there's not as many offensive plays to be made, so then you got to be a little stronger defensively because you can't make up for it with your offensive plays. So, he went through a couple scratches. I don't know how many times he got scratched. Since he's been back, he's built his game back up again. And I don't know if he even asked him, he would probably tell you that his attention to detail defensively, he's improved. And that was an important part. And it's difficult to make plays as a defenseman offensively this time of the year, but we saw tonight And this is the beauty of the game. He makes a great play on Laff's goal. He gets an assist. He makes a really good play on Kopitar's goal. Doesn't get an assist. Well, in our books, we account for it a little bit differently, and we respect the play he made there. And equally as important, if I take you back to, it was 3.5 on 1, and he read the play. Kempe chased the puck. Brandt went back inside, ended up blocking the shot. They had a really good chance in the second period that he cleaned up. Equally as important as those offensive plays he made. So that's, to me, is where the growth in his game is. And you get it on both sides, and now you really start to contribute to the team.
What was going through your head when Kemper went for that shot? It seemed like it kind of hesitated
Yeah.
a little bit.
Not the same thing that was going through everybody else's head where they were all excited. I'm here to win the game. So and I didn't know if that was the best decision to win the game in that moment. It happened. Everybody else was pretty excited about it. I was not. I'll tell you that.
A couple guys standing in front, is that what you're talking about?
Well, sorry?
They were right in front of him, too.
Yeah.
I think it's knocked down.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Coaches don't always think of the good outcomes. They're aware of the negative outcome.
Jim, you've been a part of some good teams since coming over to LA, but does this feel like the most well-balanced team you've been a part of with the high-end skill, you've had the physicality and size with the offseason, really good goaltender, Darcy? Is this the most well-balanced team?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's been some good teams, right? A different makeup. I think this team is maybe a little bigger. I think that's where we'll start with that. I think a little bigger. I think a little older with respect to like Q. And I just think back for his first couple of years. Laff was a rookie last year, so I think those two have pretty important roles. They're a year older. Spenny is a year older. Clarkie's still young, so we have young players in the lineup, but they just feel a little bit more mature.
As close as we are to the playoffs now, where do you put your special teams, as important as that is when it's crunch time?
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. Well, penalty kill we've been really happy with all year. So that's a change in system from one year to the next, and we like the results so far. Power play, well documented, I'm sure, by you guys, has struggled pretty much all year. But and I don't know percentage-wise, and there's small sample since Kuzi's been here, but it's getting better. And I think we feel pretty good about it now, and this is the time of the year to start feeling good about it.
There you go, Jim Hiller of the Kings, head coach. I don't know about you, but I still see the movement of the power play is extremely good right now. They don't shoot the puck enough, but it's a much better the way they're sharing and trying to find the open man. I think they try to find him too much, to be honest with you, looking for the perfect pass.
I think that's fair to a point. I like the 5-man forward group far better than I think they're better without Drew and Kopi having to be integral parts of the power play, in my opinion.
Right.
That's just kind of my feeling, Ted, with that. Yeah. But there's more. Look, with Kempe, Fiala, and Kuzmenko out there, and Byfield, those three for sure. You've got three guys that are legitimate goal scorers, and can, anytime they touch the puck, I think that it can find the back of the net. And then with Byfield and his size, you've got him, out front. It's a scary group. It's a scary group.
Yeah, and I think it's scary enough that I think it's opened some eyes when for half the season it would be like, hey, we don't mind playing this team in the playoffs. They can't even score on a power play.
Well, right, and I've joked before that the power play was kind of like a 2-minute rest from, how hard they were playing 5-on-5. But all kidding aside, right now, the addition of Kuzmenko, there is no question on how that's impacted this group. It is definitely a weapon, and teams, look, as good as Edmonton was last year on the penalty kill, LA has been just so good this year on the power play, so good since the acquisition of Kuzmenko that you have to think twice. You really have to be far more disciplined than maybe you would have had to have been in years past.
One of the kids that Coach Hiller just talked about, Brad Clark, the defenseman, is coming on. He's again maturing, evolving, and we spoke to him after his 100th game.
Game number 100 for you in the books now. Just how much does a milestone like that mean to you?
I'm grateful, honestly. I'm happy to do it with this team. It's definitely something that's exciting. My family was excited, and they were all happy for me, texting me this morning. So happy we got the win too. So it could be an even better memory. So yeah, it's just good vibes all around right now.
Brian, you're heading for your first playoff experience in the NHL. Is there anything you're doing differently to try to prepare for that, or is it just business as usual? Obviously, it gets a little more physical, a little less time and space in the playoffs.
Maybe a little bit. I know I'm just trying to be more involved. Stick to the details. Try to do what we've kind of done all season, but it's ramped up to a whole nother level here. So it's I don't know. I think we're definitely, as a team, just being really focused on what they tell us to do, and it's worked all season. It's still working now, and this is not the time to let off the gas. So I think that's just kind of what we've been doing, and it's been working.
What does it say about you guys? 39-0-2, scoring 3 goals or more all season long. It's an amazing number.
It is a good number. I don't know. I just feel like when we're putting the puck in the net, we know how to hold a lead too. We know how to really frustrate teams when we get up by a couple goals. So we're not just because we're up maybe 3-0 in the second period or whatever, maybe up by 3 goals. We're not playing run and gun now. We're not changing our style. So I think that's why if we get up by a couple goals, it just frustrates teams and they just can't get back in it. So I think that's a testament to the whole group.
There is Brad Clark, defenseman of the Kings. And what are your thoughts on his evolution on the blue line?
Yeah, look, I think that he is definitely an important part for this team. And I think, we've seen growth in his game, and the Kings, have been they eased him along. I mean, we've seen, we saw this guy, a healthy scratch. He was basically like 8th on the depth chart, maybe about a month and a half ago. So, I've been critical of the way that they have brought him along, but not that anyone's listening to me.
No one. I hope some people are now.
Because I really think that I just think that in Clark's case, so just let him go. Let him go. He's not going to be Drew Doughty. I just don't believe that his ceiling is where Doughty's is. But for them, I mean, look, he is a very important part of their future. There's no question. Not just because, Ted, where he was drafted, but where he was drafted and the fact that, they've moved on from Sean Durzi, Sean Walker, Brock Faber, who they in the Fiala deal. So, and I'm sure I'm missing others as well. And then, so offensively, those are 3 skilled guys that they've moved on from. So he has to be a part of their future and a significant part of their future.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed over the decades with teams that I've been around or worked for, how coaching is so important with a kid like this, and the way you handle him when you, for example, scratch him on a regular basis. It's like you're teaching him a lesson during the season, and you're probably sitting him down saying, you need to do this better. You need to do that better. And I think it's the kind of thing that he's taking it in.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, there were definitely some, there were issues that I don't know firsthand. I know that back in his days before he, in his junior days, there were definitely some disciplinary situations that he ran himself into. He missed some team meetings, and there was frustration with this guy who's got a lot of talent. But look, the Kings had a plan going back. You look at training camp with Clark. I mean, they were not allowing him, Ted, to go past the hash marks in games, like in their scrimmages. I mean, it was painfully clear. Focus on defense. That's all we want you to do. We know what you can do offensively. Like, they had the reins on him. So, he's playing some of his best hockey at the right, at this time of the year when they need it. And it's great that they can count on him. He's earned his spot.
Yep, no doubt about it. So good for Brad Clark, another of the Kings kids. Alex Laferriere as first 3-point game in the NHL. He's the last LA guy we'll hear from today.
Your forward group has been so dynamic of late. How important is that, with playoffs a week away? And, what's that been like for you to find that kind of comfort and production between the three of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I think we've kind of built a lot of chemistry over the past couple months, and I think it's really starting to show. And I think people talk a lot about getting hot at the right time, and obviously we want to contribute in playoffs. So for us, yeah, it's just about building that chemistry and kind of gaining some confidence going into playoffs.
It just seems calling card all year has been defense, and you've gone through stretches where the goals really weren't coming for you, but that kind of seems like a thing of the past. Is this the most confident this team as a whole has been offensively?
Yeah, you could say that. I think throughout the whole year we've known we can score goals, and obviously we're a really strong defensive team as well. So I think for us, try and focus on defense a little bit first, and then the offense is going to come from that. And I think that's kind of shown with how strong our defense has been recently, and we're kind of using that to generate offense. So, yeah, I think it's been working well.
Kev, 2 goals again tonight, but beyond that, he's been using his skating and really kind of setting the tone. What have you seen from him as he's ramped up over the second half?
Fiala.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. He's such a mature player now. I think you can look at kind of the progression he's had all year, and, not cheating the game as much anymore. And, I mean, he's been a really good player for us recently, and
Very
I
honest.
think it helps me and Q a lot when he's on the defensive side of pucks and kind of tracking back and stuff like that, and it helps us kind of turn pucks up and get on offense. And I mean, he's such a dynamic player that when he's coming back that fast and then being able to transition really fast, it's hard for the other team to deal with.
How is that? How often would you hear a line mate say, it's nice that this guy's not cheating anymore?
Absolutely, Ted. And that's
seriously. I mean, but he said that there was no knock. It was like, hey, this is our reality, and he wasn't afraid to say it.
I'm surprised that he said it. I wasn't, just in dealing with Alex, over the last year or so, the last person in the world that he's usually pretty, cliche with his responses. But that when I heard that, I was like, my eyes almost popped out of my socket. But it goes back though to what did we talk about pretty much off the top of the show? The maturation of Kevin Fiala.
Yep.
And we get that, we can say it, but when you hear it from a player, he didn't use those same words, but when he says he's not cheating the game anymore.
You know what? He said it in better words.
He did.
But from a teammate, you don't ever hear that. And again, I think it's the honesty is incredibly refreshing.
It was, absolutely. I want to also just go back to something just about Jim Hiller. Something that stood out for me at the beginning of the year, and I would just grind my teeth because it just always bothered me with the Hiller press conferences. But he would always, definitely in the first quarter of the year, it was very common for Jim Hiller to use the phrase, "It's tough to win in this league."
Okay.
I have not heard that for quite some time.
Well, it's because they're winning better.
No, I understand. But and I'm not knocking him.
No, I know.
But I'm just saying again how this team has grown that you're not hearing the coach say it's tough to win in this league. Because for them, I understand what he's saying. There's no easy victory. But to me, that was kind of like a crutch. I think the way this team is playing, now the coach believes that it's no longer tough. We expect to win. I think that's something for me that's it's different with just, again, the little subtleties of what they're saying and what they're not saying. And that's one of my takes from Hiller right now.
Okay. And I always give a guy who's a first-year head coach in any level the benefit of the doubt in his early post-game news conferences because it's all new to him. So
no,
I'm just saying in that respect.
Yeah, no. And again, I always like to say, I don't always, many times I will say both things can be true. And yes, both things can be true, but I do believe, there are some teams like when the Kings step on the ice, especially at home, I expect they're going to win. I don't hope, if you're a fan, I don't think it's not a matter of hope. There's an expectation that they're going to win.
Right.
They go on the road, you're hoping that they can win the game. But right now, I think Jim Hiller believes that maybe the games are tough, but we expect to win.
Absolutely.
I just think there's a different Look, it's we talk about confidence for players, it's with coaches, and I just think that there is a confidence with this team and a belief that maybe he didn't have to the same degree. And I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. I'm just trying to, read the tea leaves here, and that's right. What I'm coming up with.
Yeah, another coach that when he started in Colorado, I think he was like this close to losing his job like 100 times at the beginning. Jared Bednar, and now he is he's part of the woodwork there. What can I say? He's got himself his name on the Stanley Cup. He's an old buddy of mine from the Anaheim Bullfrogs.
Oh.
He was the Roller Hockey International. He was an enforcer for a handful of games in Anaheim, so we go way back together. You talked about what's the possibilities of Gabe Landeskog coming back in Colorado. Well, I thought I'd give you some Bednar comments on that.
Gabe's up in Loveland, he's getting closer. Obviously on a player level, he's got to show what he can do. But on a human level, you've known him for so long. What are kind of the emotions seeing him get to this point?
I'm like everybody else, man. I'm excited for him. Like I said the other day, the more excited he gets about a return, the more excited I get, because I know there's been lots of peaks and valleys in his. But when you're talking about mental toughness, resilience, just the work ethic that it takes to kind of go through what he's gone through and have all those ups and downs and peaks and valleys along his recovery to get to the point where it's possible he could play, it's pretty exciting.
How much of that excitement that you have for him is, like you said, the human element, you're just rooting for the guy, and how much of it is hey, I can actually use this guy?
I think it's more the human element for me, more than anything. Just because I know Gabe and I know what he's meant to this organization. I've got a great relationship with him, a ton of respect for him, and to see him go through what he's gone through, I'm just rooting for him to get back and be able to play. I know that he wants to play. I know that he wants to play a long time yet, and so I want that for him, So it's more that than him joining our team and helping our team on the ice.
How do you navigate that though, with trying to incorporate him back in?
When he says he's ready to play, he's going to play. If he's healthy and feels good, and I don't have any doubts of what he's going to be able to do for our team. He's a gifted player. He's been on the ice a lot. I think there'll be some getting up to speed stuff, but I think he's going to be a good player for us if he's healthy enough to play, and I'm just going to put him in the lineup.
So that's head coach Jared Bednar of the Avalanche. And I had a wonderful chat with Gabe Landeskog right there with Cale Makar up in the press box when he was hurt, but he made a trip. I think this was 2 years ago. I don't even remember anymore. We talked for an entire period. It was really nice he's just a really, really super guy. And, we have some friends that are similar in this business. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with him before, but he's really a special guy.
Oh, yeah. I've never had the opportunity to interview him. I've only been able to, observe from a distance the interviews. And and even, TNT's been doing the special about, his comeback.
Right.
Super impressive. And, look, he had a nice, it shows you, what his importance is to the team, with what, about a half a dozen players, including Makar and McKinnon, going out to watch him play, that his first game back in 3 years. I mean, the fact, Ted, that this guy 3 years later is still willing to put in the work to get himself back tells you what you need to know. He had a goal and an assist, in his final game. He played 2 games in the AHL. He had a goal and assist. Can't remember if he scored in the first game or had an assist, but 1-1 in the second game. And it's great. He's completed the assignment down in the minors. He is now with He's back with the Avalanche. Their season's done.
Yep.
So they've got essentially they're going to have 6 days off, and Landeskog is going to have 6 days off to practice with the team, which I'm sure Dallas is just thrilled about.
Yeah, right. It's like, wait a minute, that's not fair to bring this guy in now.
I heard Elliot Friedman and Kyle Bukoskis on their 32 Thoughts podcast today. Elliot was making mention of the fact that the league has become very diligent in checking in with teams, wanting to see medical records of players so that we don't have, like a Mark Stone, accusations that are being tossed around. And, I think, everybody understands the Landeskog situation, but,
right.
The league is definitely aware of people's concerns and frustrations.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's really weird to look up here on the Western Conference playoffs situation, and the Avs have nothing left. Some teams still have 2 games left. It's sort of weird, right, with a few days left in the season, but that's just the way the schedule fell.
Well, and like I said, it works out really well for Landeskog, who's going to have this time to practice with the Avalanche and see if he can make a go of it.
Yep.
Come playoff time.
So, and your thoughts here on the wild card situation?
Well, it's a huge night tonight. I mean, this is just with everything that's going on. Minnesota needs 1 point, and they clinch wild card spot 1. St. Louis ideally wants, if they win in regulation, I think they pretty much eliminate Calgary. I'm trying to remember.
I think you're correct.
Calgary has talked about now. Calgary and the Utah and the Calgary game are an hour apart start time. Ryan Huska, the Flames coach, has talked about the fact like they have to win in regulation ultimately. So he's talked about the fact that unless Utah ends up losing, then they could win in overtime. I think they can do that. But he's talked about pulling the goalie in the third period if they're in a tie situation. We're going to see that tonight also in Columbus and Philadelphia because the Jackets have to win in regulation tonight. Right. They can't. An overtime win is not going to do it. The last time we saw something like this, it was the Rangers needed to win. They were playing the Flyers on the last day of the year, and I believe they pulled their goalie. It was one of the two had to pulled their goalie because they couldn't. An overtime win would do them nothing. The Flames, if the Blues were to lose tonight, Calgary could win in overtime, and they'd still be alive.
Okay. All right.
So,
I love it coming down to the wire here. That's what makes it fun.
Yes.
And the pressure mounts for those teams. So do we have a betting choice tonight? A nice tip to give the people who want to make a few extra bucks here.
Yeah. There are a couple of things out there tonight. Like last night, as soon as the Kings game was over, I bet the Kraken to beat LA tonight. I don't think LA's got anything to play for tonight.
You might be in the lineup tonight, right?
Pardon?
You might be in the lineup.
I may. I thought that Bednar was going to call me for the game at crypto. I could be, the E-Bug forward, or the E-Buff, I guess, or the E-Bud. Play forward or defense. I really like Seattle tonight. And then, there are 2 other ones, both involving the Capitals game. The Capitals have given up 3 or more goals now in 11 straight games. So you get the Islanders team total at over 2.5. And also Washington and Islanders first period over. The Caps, since the Four Nations, Ted.
Yeah.
21 of their 25 games have had at least 2 goals scored in the first period. And the first period over is always at 1.5.
Right.
So,
well, you gave out a couple of winners over the last 2 shows, sir.
No pressure.
Yeah, right. I love the Seattle Kraken on back-to-back nights, and you're so pissed off that that's the last time it's going to happen this year.
It's a bummer. And we won't get any. I don't believe that we'll get back-to-backs. It's rare that we even get them in the playoffs. I believe maybe in the last decade we've had one or two, but it's rare that we would get back-to-backs. Teams, definitely frown on that.
All right, so playoffs are next. Next week we'll be in the middle of it. So we still don't even know what the home schedule will be for the Kings. It could be Saturday, could be Sunday, Tuesday.
No, it can't be Saturday.
Oh, it can't be Saturday.
It can't be Saturday because if you play Thursday,
yes,
play Calgary, then you can't play Saturday.
So it could be a Sunday, Tuesday situation.
It could be Sunday, or they may start Monday, but I think they'll probably start Sunday.
Okay.
I think the only thing that we pretty much know for Saturday, I believe, I know I would expect Dallas, Colorado will be a Saturday game. And I'm trying, Carolina, New Jersey can't be Saturday because Carolina plays Montreal on Thursday, I think it is, or maybe it's Wednesday. Maybe it could be. I don't even know. I just know Dallas, Colorado is likely for Saturday. And that's one of a couple of series that I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, that really should be that's almost a unfortunate first round matchup there, isn't it?
Yeah, Mikko Rantanen against his former team. I mean, the irony there.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, we'll see Gabe Landeskog. I just hope Gabe Landeskog doesn't become what Steven Stamkos was when he tried to come back. He played the one shift, he scored a goal, he played like one shift and whatever. But,
again, he's been skating. He's played in a couple of games now.
Yeah.
He's got to. The doctors are not going to let him play if he's not ready.
No, not at all. The fact that he was able to play games on consecutive days, not just 2 games down with the Colorado Eagles, but back to back, that tells you at least he's good. He's in the right. He's going in the right direction.
It's the shortest preseason in the history of the game. I'll tell you that for anybody to go straight into the playoffs.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it 3 years ago? It's been 3 years now, right?
3 years.
He's played.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Man.
What's that?
He's a $6 million man. We can rebuild him.
Yes. Any last second thoughts?
No. I mean, just from a pure hockey standpoint, yes. My last second thought was watching Ivan Demidov for the Montreal Canadiens, the Russian make his debut last night.
Yeah.
He was everything that was advertised. So from just a pure hockey standpoint, but tonight will be fantastic with what's at stake with Minnesota, St. Louis, and Calgary. This is what the league wanted to have. It's great for the NHL that we've got a race like this, and really the other one and Columbus tonight, because the Canadians have opened the door, kept the door open for Columbus. So I will love it. I mean, for me, the best thing with Columbus tonight is the game is tied with 2 minutes to go, and the Jackets are going to need to pull their goalie to try to win it in a tie game. That's something that, I mean, from a theater standpoint, would just be great for Columbus fans. It's squeaky bum time.
I hope everybody enjoyed this week's Home Ice Advantage. He's John. I'm Ted. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday, right in the thick of it, baby. The playoffs will be underway. There's nothing like playoff hockey. Until then, we'll talk to you later, everybody.